Today I'm going to be answering some of my most asked questions when it comes to my haunted dolls, so you can listen to me yak while you watch me open some of the new limited edition rare dolls and a few one-of-a-kind ones too. The first question I often get asked, and I see it on a lot of my social medias, is what are the things that some of my dolls wear around the neck? These are called balloon lights. They twist to turn on, and I typically use them on mainly my personal collection so that they can communicate either using yes or no, and so that they can get my attention if they want anything. The next question I often get a lot of is, are the spirits that are attached to these dolls trapped? The spirits attached to these dolls aren't trapped. They are here of their own choice. They have chosen to attach dolls for many different reasons, and they are all free to cross over whenever they want to. The only time this can vary slightly is if a demon or demonic entity has been bound to a vessel through some kind of magic. However, none of mine are bound. They're all free to go where they please. I also get asked a lot on how I communicate with them and the different methods I use. I use a variety of paranormal devices to communicate with my spirits, balloon lights, pendulums, EMF readers, spirit box. I find the Necrophonic app is really good. I use a REM pod, and I also use cat balls too, as well as dowsing rods occasionally. Do I have a favourite spirit? The answer to this question is no. I don't have a favourite. I have several spirits that I am more drawn to. Some of these spirits include Amelia, Sonia, Bridget, but I don't specifically have a favourite. I also often get asked who my first haunted doll was. My first haunted doll was Mary. She's the positive spirit of a 12-year-old girl who passed away from an illness. Her birthday is the 31st of July 1981. She can be shy but also curious and likes to follow me around. She has told me that she was a bit clumsy in life and was always tripping over. She's eager to learn and explore, and she's most active at night. She likes children, other spirits, animals. She responds well to trigger objects, the EMF dowsing rods, the balloon light. She makes cold spots in the house around her, and she also gives me a very calm feeling when I am around her. I also get asked if I still have my first haunted doll, which I do. Mary will never be leaving me. She will be here until the day I die. I've had some people ask me if I watch horror films, and the answer to this is yes. I am very big into horror films. My all-time favourite has to be Nightmare on Elm Street. It was the first one that I watched when I was very young, and it's what really got me into horror. I get asked a lot the difference between a positive, negative, and a neutral spirit. The term that they get given depends on the kind of energy they give off. So my positive spirits, they give off a very happy, warm feeling, very calm, very welcoming. They're all really nice spirits, typically really good for beginners because they're so easy to get on with. My negative spirits tend to give off a more negative energy. They can make you feel sick. They can give you headaches. I find typically that a lot of negative spirits actually have a lot of trauma. So they might have had a really traumatic life. And over time, I find that a negative spirit can actually become a more positive spirit. A neutral spirit is just somewhere in between. They don't really give you a really positive feeling, but they also don't give you a negative feeling. They're just more on that neutral ground. Their activity can range. Morena, for example, she can become quite negative in storms, but generally speaking, she's quite a positive spirit otherwise, so she's more on the neutral side. I also get asked why they specifically choose their dolls. This can vary depending on the spirit. There can be a lot of reasons. I find the main ones are either they had the spirit when they were alive, they chose the doll because it looked like them, They chose the doll because they just like the doll in general, or they feel like it represents them well. And some spirits just choose a doll that they resonate with. I have a lot of people on my videos apologise, saying sorry and that they claim no negative energy through the videos. So the next question I get asked a lot is, are they dangerous? While some of your more famous haunted dolls, such as Annabelle or the Robert doll, can be deemed as dangerous, every spirit that I have in my care is perfectly safe. They are safe to post online, they are safe to look at. If they weren't, I wouldn't include them in my videos. But generally speaking, most spirits, other entities, angels and demons included, they're generally perfectly safe. Obviously, if you know what you're doing, you have to remain respectful to them. But generally speaking, they're safe to look at. I often get asked my opinions on working with demons and angels because I have a lot. I also have an altar set up for Lilith and Lucifer. I find that my demonic entities are actually a lot easier to get on with than my angelic entity, Cynthia. I'm not saying that I don't love her, but my demonic entities, they tend to, when working with them, be a lot more forgiving. They're a lot more lenient, and they tend to very softly guide you to where you want to be. However, with Cynthia, she is very to the point. She can be very blunt. She can feel a lot more different to work with. She can be quite intimidating at times. She loves to follow rules, and she's very, this is what we're doing now, this is how we're doing it, and there's no other way. Whereas I find that my demonic entities will help gently guide me in a way. I also often get asked if there is something that I wish I knew before I started collecting. I didn't start working with any form of entity until a lot later. I had spirits for quite a while. I probably wish that I had been told that angels can be very intimidating to work with at times. When I first had Cynthia, I found it really difficult to sort of allow that energy to channel when communicating because she was so intense. I also wish, for a while, I was really scared of haunted dolls. Although I love the paranormal, they terrified me, and the thought of having dolls in my house was terrifying. So I wish that somebody had told me up until a certain point where I really started diving into it that actually spirits, they're all around us anyway, and you're talking 99.9% of them don't want any harm. They just want to be allowed to get on with their afterlife, and a lot of them are really, really kind. I have some of the most loving spirits here, and they are genuinely the sweetest. As a lot of you may know from seeing me on TikTok and Instagram, I have quite a wide collection. We're probably talking over 300 dolls currently, which is crazy to think. But a lot of people ask me if all of my dolls are haunted. The answer to that is no, although quite a lot are. I also have a lot that aren't haunted. I just like collecting certain dolls. I'll get them just because, you know, they're a collector's edition. They're rare, things like that, or just because I like them. So not every doll is haunted, and that is often why in a lot of my videos you'll only see certain dolls, but you can see others in the background that often aren't included, and that's simply because they're not haunted. Do I have any lower vibrational entities? For those who don't know, a lower vibrational entity, you're talking more your demonics, your angelics are higher vibrational, spirits are kind of in the middle, and then your demonics are your lower vibrational entities. So I do have quite a few lower vibrational entities. Molly, Rebecca, Violet, I have a few here. Do you need paranormal devices to communicate with your haunted doll? The answer to this is no. In fact, I started with no devices whatsoever. Now, the best way I could find at the time, there may be other ways, to communicate with my haunted dolls was using a necklace as a pendulum. They work exactly the same. It doesn't matter what kind of necklace it is, just as long as it has some form of pendant on it so it can swing. That works just as well as going and buying an actual pendulum. I also often get asked if an entity has ever attached to me. The answer to this is yes. I have had an attachment since I was a very, very young child. I would often see things in the house, hear footsteps when alone. I even caught a photo of something under my bed the one day. My friend actually pointed it out to me. He likes to pose as a child. However, he's not a child. He never really causes any issues. A couple of my spirits don't particularly like him. They tend to warn me that he's like watching me or whatever. He's never personally done anything to me other than like trying to scare me with like doors moving and footsteps, but I've never had any real negative experiences off him. So I've never tried to personally get rid of him because he's never really posed a problem to me. For those who know Amelia, they know that her eyes are bright green, and it is one of the things that drew me to her, along with her story. For those who haven't seen her story, I will explain first. Amelia is a positive spirit of an 8-year-old child. Her birthday is the 9th of October, although I'm not entirely sure what year, as she's never fully told me. She passed away from a battle with leukemia, which is a type of blood cancer. Amelia loves to be pampered, and she is very friendly. She has a lot of love to give, and she's one of the sweetest dolls in my collection. She has shown activity via a few different ways. These include disembodied footsteps, disembodied voices, full body apparitions, cat balls, balloon light. She uses the dead bell, which she absolutely loves, EMF, pendulum, spirit box, dowsing rods. She has also set off my REM pod before. Amelia chose this doll because she had her when she was alive. It was her favourite doll in her collection, which is why she attached to this doll. The reason her eyes are so green, which I get asked a lot, is because they are made out of uranium glass. Uranium obviously being a radioactive substance, although uranium glass, unless broken, is typically safe to handle. So there is no risk of radiation poisoning with her, essentially. But that is what makes her eyes that vibrant bright green. Have I ever gotten any visions off my dolls? The answer to this varies. They aren't technically visions as such. I have a couple who will come to me in dreams, Vivian being one. She came to me to show me what had happened in her life because she found it easier than talking about. I have a couple of others who have come to me in dreams. I also occasionally get like a feeling that one of them is trying to tell me something or show me something. And then later on, when I'm communicating with them, it comes to light what they were actually trying to communicate with me. So it's not a vision as such, it's more of a feeling that I get from them that they're trying to tell me something. How long does it take for a spirit to trust you? This can again vary greatly depending on the spirit. So I have some who have come to me and have shown activity straight away. They've been very confident. They've been very bold. Bridget being one of them. She was active from the get-go. Ellis was also very active. However, I've also had some spirits that have taken a lot longer to become active. Some have taken weeks. Some have even taken months. They tend to be shyer spirits. So Beryl, Mary, they took a while to warm up. Jess did as well. And sometimes if they have a certain trauma around people, if like something really bad happened involving people, it can take a lot longer for them to trust because they have this negative feeling and they think that everyone is out to hurt them. After a while, they do come round. I've never had one that's been really anxious all the time, but you can do things like just sitting with them, telling them about your day, watching shows with them, doing activities that they enjoy. All of them can help your spirit become more comfortable with you, but it will take time depending on the spirit. You can't just expect them to come into a home and automatically be really, really active, because like us, they can be quite anxious in new places and around new people, and it can take a while for them to realise, actually, I'm safe here. So it depends, but there are ways that you can help your spirit become more comfortable. I've had a couple of people ask me if I'm scared of being possessed. The answer to this is simply no. I take precautions if I get a new demonic in the house, if I think they're going to cause a problem, but honestly, it is nothing like you see in the movies. Again, 99% of demons, they have no reason to possess us, nor do they want to. You find that with cases of possession, it tends to be demons that are lower down the pecking order, trying to get power and trying to scare people and move up the ranks in hell. So really, as long as you're not messing about with something, and again, a lot of it comes down to trust. You've got to be very respectful, because at the end of the day, they are going to demand respect. If you are respectful to them, they will be respectful to you. It's the same with my angelic entities. My only exception would be if you were using a Ouija board. I don't recommend this personally. I do not think they're safe. I think that you can invite a lot of negative things into your home using a Ouija board, and it is certainly not a way that I would want to communicate. I know some people have communicated and found that it has been really great and they've gotten on with it, but for me personally, I have seen and heard too many stories of people messing with Ouija boards and it going incredibly wrong, and it is just not something I would touch. But as long as you are respectful to the entity that you are working with, I have never personally had a problem. That's not to say that you wouldn't have a problem, but I have never personally had a problem. Do I hug the dolls? I often hug them. I find that they really enjoy it, especially the younger spirits. It helps them feel safe, it helps them feel comfortable and loved. There are a few exceptions in my collection. They don't particularly like to be hugged, so I don't. But you can absolutely hug the doll, and I find that a lot of the spirits actually really enjoy it when you look after their dolls like that. Do spirits only attach to dolls? The answer to this is no. Spirits can attach to anything you can think of. People, you can definitely have spirit attachments to. You can have attachment to teddies, you can have attachments to statues, you could have attachments to nearly every object you can think of. Spirits also get attached to homes, so if they have passed away in the house, there is a chance that the spirit is still roaming around, they're attached to that home. So they can attach to anything. I personally like collecting dolls, which is why the majority of my collection is dolls. I have a few teddies. I do have a few figures as well, but a lot of mine are dolls personally, because that is just my preference. I prefer the old vintage dolls. I also often get asked who my youngest spirits are. Jovan and Kristen are my youngest spirits. They are both aged 2. Kristen is the positive spirit of a 2-year-old girl. Her birthday is the 8th of May 1967. Kristen was sadly killed by her father. She also has a sister, Kimberly. People often ask me if they're sisters. They are. Kristen loves jumping up and down on the sofas. I don't know what it is about sofas, but she finds it amusing. She absolutely loves doing it. I've often heard her giggling when she does it. Her sister is very protective over her. They're literally the complete opposites. Kristen is very confident. She's very daring, and she's not really afraid of anything. She's shown activity by moving trigger objects, EMF, pendulum, cold spots, tapping sounds, especially if they're separated, and balloon lights. Jovan is also a positive spirit. His birthday is the 9th of September 2002. Jovan sadly passed away from a disease that he had when he was born that would have progressed through life as he got older. He struggles to communicate due to his age, but he is learning slowly. He is extremely sweet, and he gives a very warm feeling when around him. He loves animals, and he also likes to jingle the bells on his hat. He's shown activity via EMF, cat ball, spirit box, balloon lights, and can move his vessel slightly. I also often get asked who is my most active spirit. I have a couple that are very active. Bridget and Ellis are really active. Sonia is very active. Amelia's very active. Cynthia is really active. I also find that at times Bethany can also be quite active, although she is on the shyer side. She goes through phases of being quite active. I also have the twins, Emma and Charlotte. They can be very active. Debbie and Jonathan are also very active at times. They are also twins. Do I have any spirits who passed away after the year 2000? I have 2 spirits currently in my collection who passed away after the year 2000. They are Jovan and Hubert. I also often get asked a lot if the spirits in my videos actually consent to being recorded. The answer to this is yes. I always ask, no matter what the video is, and I always ask before posting anything. I also show them the video. I make sure that they are comfortable with what I am sharing. If they're not, I simply don't share it. I have a couple of spirits who don't want me to share certain details. Vivian, for example, doesn't want me to share her life, so she will allow me to share certain bits of information. I have some that don't want me to share anything online, so I don't, because I believe that just because they are passed on, I think that all spirits should be respected no matter what. I also often get asked if I found any of their stories online, and the answer to this question is yes. One of my main ones, who I've done a video on both my TikTok and Instagram, is Kimberly and Kristen. I have actually found their lives. I have found photos of them and their story. So if you want to see that, go and check out my TikTok and Instagram. The username is the same as this one. I've had a couple of people also ask me what kind of offerings they can give to their spirits. Again, this can vary depending on a spirit's preference, but I find that a lot of the times, ones that you can really go with that tend to be really good are candles. I often like candles for them. Teddies, especially for your younger spirits. I have some who prefer flowers. I have some who prefer crystals. So I would just communicate with them, ask what they would like. If you have their stories and there's anything on what offerings they would like, use that as well. That can help them settle in. The final question I have been asked is, how do I care for the haunted dolls? The main things here are keeping their vessels clean, keeping the area that their vessels are in clean, giving offerings, including them in activities they enjoy, which can depend on the spirit, but also things like giving them hugs, offerings, whatever they really fancy. Being respectful to them. If they don't want to communicate, that is absolutely fine, and it is completely up to them at all times.